Okay, this week's tutorial is based on a request posted in the user group that was about how can I achieve a bouncing style counter. Max Bernstein asked the question and he posted an example of what he wanted and how it worked in After Effects. Yes, it's done in After Effects. So what I've done is I've created a version that works in InVideo, and I'm going to show you how that's done. So I'm starting with the standard scene for a blank template scene. So I've got build your own scene and I've added my logo. So if you look at the layers, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the length of the scene. And for what I want to achieve today, I need 18 seconds. Now the reason I'm going for 18 seconds is I'm going to have the numbers 1 to 10, each with a 2-second length, and they will overlap slightly so they bounce each other out. And what I'm going to also then do is have a little bit of static for the number 1 and a little bit of staticness at the end for the number 10. So it will count through to 1 to 10, with 1 being on the scene for a little bit and 10 being on the scene for a little bit as well. So the first thing I'm going to do, as I say, is I'm going to extend it to 18 seconds long. We've already got build your own scene on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the advanced timeline and I'm going to do a couple of things with that. So I'm going to change that to the number 1. Okay, I'm going to slide it to the very beginning and I'm going to cut it down to 2 seconds. Okay, so that's now 2 seconds long, the number 1. What I'm also going to do is go into style. I'm going to lock the font resizing and I'm going to change that to 200. Okay, and that's moved it away from the center of the screen. So what I'm going to do is just recenter it. You can see how those guidelines help you. We're going to talk about grids in a bit, but those guidelines show you that where the cross is the exact center of the screen. So I've got my number 1. I'm going to go back to layers, click on number 1, and then I'm going to do Control C, Control V. Okay, and I'm going to go to here and I'm going to slide that so that it overlaps by, I want it to go to 150. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So it overlaps a little bit. 145 actually I think is not quite right. So let's just move that to 150. Ever I wish. Okay, so 151. We're hardly going to notice a 1/10 of a second. So what we're going to, a 100th of a second even, what we're going to do is build our things. Okay, but if we click on 2, which still says number 1, because I haven't changed it to 2. Okay, it's not quite in the middle. If we look at 1, you'll see 1 is exactly in the middle, and if we look at 2, you'll see it's offset. Now if you look at these little circles here, if we go back to 1, you'll see that through the middle. Yeah, so if we go to 2, we can use the arrow keys on our keyboard to move these to be midway through the center lines. So now if you look, 1 and 2 are not quite in the same place. The 2 jumps up 1 pixel or so. So if we do it again, 1, 2. Okay, so that allows us to fine-tune our alignment. What I'm going to do next then is I'm going to duplicate 2. Now I always go to layers to make sure I've got the right thing, so I'm going to do Control C, Control V. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is 3, and then I'm going to do this one so this one overlaps. Just want to get it halfway through. Anyway, we can play around with the alignments afterwards. That's definitely not as far forward as the other one, is it? We'll go to concentrate on the overlaps in a minute. So you can see now that I've got 3 numbers, and if I check the grid, you'll see that this one is out as well, so I can move it up and move it to the left. You can play with these alignments when you've done it all, got it together, to make sure they're 100% correct, but I wanted to show you how to do things fairly quickly. You don't want this to last forever. So I'm going to go back to layers, and I've got number 3, Control C, Control V, and I'm going to change that to 4. Whatever you do, don't press a return, because that makes life very, very difficult, because you get a much bigger blue box. So if we slide that to roughly overlap there, and we look at our number 4 again now, needs to go up. Okay, click on it. Do you ever have the feeling it doesn't want to move? That's because it wasn't selected. Okay, so now we've got 4, layer 4, Control C, Control V. This is going to become 5. Again, we'll shift it so it overlaps. I think we'll just take the overlap down a bit. And again, clicking on it. And remove there. Okay, so now we've got 5. Let's do Control C, Control V. 6. Slide it again to sort our overlap. We'll get them all exact afterwards. Layer, and again we'll move it to be in the middle. Control C, Control V. 7. Again, let's slide it to get the overlap roughly right. Go back to the layer, click. Okay, 7. Control C, Control V. This one's going to be 8. And let's go to layers, click on it, and again we can move it into the right place, and Control C, Control V. So this is 9. Back to layers. Slide it so it's overlapping a bit. Back to layers. And again, that will then allow us to align it. Okay, Control C, Control V. And this time we're going for 10. Okay. Back to layers, and you can see that this needs here. Whoops. I'll get it right in a moment. Okay, so we've got our 10 layers. We've moved them all around. So if we play this, as you can see, that there. So what we want to do is create the ability for it to bounce in. Now we could have done this on the first one and then it would have been included as we did our duplication, but I've done it this way so that you could see just the standard 1 to 10. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to 1 and we're going to go to animation, whole, we've got none, and what we're going to do is we're going to start with none because it's not coming from everywhere, but so that's in is going to have none and out is going to have bounce, up, bounce to up. Yep. And this is 2 seconds long, so I'm going to cut that to ½ a second. Okay, and if we play this scene, you'll see it bounced out. Okay, stop again. So let's go to number 2. Now in number 2 we want the animation to be in, so we're going to go for bounce again, but this time we want it from down. Okay, so it's going to come up, we're going to shorten that to ½ a second, and you can play with all these timings to change the effect to whatever way you want to do. And then we're going to go to out again, we're going to go to bounce, and again this time we're going to go, because it's out, it's going to bounce. Been too quick pass there, wipe, and we're going to want it to bounce up, and again I'm going to make that ½ a second. Okay, and we'll quickly show you the first bit of the scene. So 1, it goes up, and 2 came up, and there. Now again you can change all of these timings yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here for a second, and then I'm going to come back when I've done all 10 numbers bouncing in and out. Okay, so now I've put on the bounce ups and bounce outs of all of them, so let's show you the video working again. So they come in from the bottom and bounce out to the top, and then the 10 stays on for a short while. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend the 10 to the end so that it stays there, and the final thing I'm going to do is change the music, and I'm going to go to electronic, and yes, I have chosen my tune in advance. I'm going to use Black Moon, so I'm going to select that, and so now I can preview. I'm not going to watch it all the way through. I'm going to export it, and then I'm going to add the exported video to the end of this. Okay, so that's the counter. But don't forget, you can play with the timings, you can play with the overlap, so it doesn't have to be 2 seconds long, it can be half a second long. The overlap can be as long as you want or as short as you want, and even more importantly, of course, you can use a different kind of animation to create a different feel to the counter. So I hope you found that useful.